You're not responsible. It was wrong. Reach out to me. We'll connect you.
I will never see, speak, or hear from Aaron Smith-Levin for the rest of my life.
I've been raised since the age of 4 to follow orders, do as I was told, or risk losing everything.
If we speak out, that's the only way they're going to get the strength to have the courage to do the same.
Why the hell does someone have to escape to get out of a religion?
I'm still shocked by the evil. This is pure evil at work.
All right, we're going to come get some extra Scientology edition with part 2 of Tara Reile. A little bit early start here today for the live feed. I apologize. I have some errands to run, and I don't have a lot of time, so I won't be talking about a whole lot here. I just want to let you guys know, if you heard part 1 of Tara Reile, if you heard part 1 of Miriam Francis last week, I was trying a different method of recording. The audio did not come out great. I have improved it greatly. If you want to go back and listen to part 1, if you had trouble with it, of Tara Reile, it is very clear now compared to what it was. And of course, I was able to boost Miriam Francis's audio to the point to where you can actually understand what she's saying. So I do apologize for that. So that is improved. You can go back and listen to those today. I didn't want to wait any longer to continue this this conversation with Tara Reile for you guys. It's part 2 of 3 parts. She had a lot of good stuff to say. I'm thinking there might be more in the future. Who knows? But right now, let's go ahead and get right into it. Right where we left off with Tara Reile. That thought process towards women, that the women are inferior?
You know, this has come up, and
I've never heard this talked about.
Yeah, it has come up because the way they deal with rape and
well, that, yes,
molestation, and the way that women's feelings, I mean, maybe we're just women and we're kind of sensitive, but I don't think so. I mean, I don't know. They don't. Let's back up. So, I don't know if Scientology as a whole looks down on women. Like, we were pretty equal. We're all adults, even if you're still in diapers and
you're all Satan.
Got a fucking pacifier in your mouth. You should be out drinking and having fun because you're really like a billion. That fucked with me, really. I had very little guidance and structure. Like when I was not even 12, my parents would buy me cigarettes. Like I've been smoking since I was 12, and yes, I know it's bad, blah, blah. But something I will eventually maybe give up. But that's how they would pay me, like my tour money. Like not give me money. I remember sitting there, like, on the couch smoking cigarettes, like, thinking to myself, like, tell me to stop. Like, hey, guys, like, I shouldn't be sitting here. Why are you smoking? Oh, where are we going with that? But the guidance and stuff. Where were we going with?
Well, it's like a normal parent, it's a normal child thing where if you don't feel like you're getting attention, you'll break the rules to be corrected.
Right. And I don't know how he got off of the Jeremy thing. I don't know. Maybe he like rewired his brain so much. He just had so much. He just couldn't even do it. He was just like, fuck it.
You weren't going to ask Jeremy to babysit, were you?
Oh, that's where I was going with that. So I wasn't, but my boyfriend was like, well, Jeremy, and I was like, well, and I didn't actually know about it because between Jeremy standing in our living room for hours at a time, he was, then kind of protected by his family in the church. So we didn't really see much of Jeremy, but Jesse, he actually, if you really look into the story, all of the documents, the court documents, and like what the doctor said and all this shit from the psych ward is online. And he refers to Jesse, my boyfriend. I don't remember what he was talking about, but they were very, very close. And Jesse had said, like, well, what about Jeremy? And I was like, well, I don't know. What do you think? And he was like, no, I don't know. So, no, Jeremy did not babysit for us. But it was kind of, I remember that, like, weird thing with Jesse. Like, Jesse and him grew, like, they were in diapers together. Like, his dad and his mom spent, they were full-blown Scientologists. And then Jeremy's parents, full-blown Scientologists. And, Jesse's brother's in the Sea Org, and Jeremy's people are in the Sea Org, so very, whatever. So he's, I don't, why were we talking about that? Oh, yeah. No, I didn't have him babysit. Jeremy had legit clinical schizophrenia. Like I said, I'm not a doctor, but he did. And they didn't take him to get any kind of psychiatric help. They just upped his vitamins. My uncle will argue, no, Tara, that's a lie. We did take him to doctors. We tried everything we could. I was like, oh, yeah? Did you take him to a shrink? Because, you know, schizophrenia now it can be managed with, like, some good medication and some therapy. I mean, yeah, there's always those ones that are extreme, but from my understanding, it can, you know, I mean, Jeremy was extreme, but they let it get to that fucking point. They literally let him, you know, stew in his own psychosis, and they tried to fix him with vitamins, and then the guy's already thinking that the FBI's talking to him through the fucking toilet, and then he doesn't trust his mom, and Scientology is shady as fuck. He didn't get any of those, you know, so-called case gains. Like, that whole thing, I can't even imagine the crazy turmoil and the conversations that were going on in his head, like, for real.
Right.
It must have been insane.
Terror.
Oh, Rick, no, you're Jesus.
Terror, correct me if I'm wrong, but this guy doesn't stand a chance, because what are the choices? The choices are either audit it out of him and hope for the best, or kick him out of Scientology. But if you do that, then you're admitting that the tech failed. Is that about? Am I right on that?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And then in his case, what they tried to do was basically like leprosy, like 1500s. Like, hi, Jeremy. Like, who can take Jeremy this week? It's like, Jeremy is almost 30 years old and is having a psychotic fucking breakdown and is probably going to hurt somebody. Nobody should be taking Jeremy. And I remember being in, like, the room, or, like, I wasn't involved in the conversations, so I would just kind of, like, roll my eyes and be like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, kind of, I would just detach myself because I knew, like, it was just so wrong. And then being, you know, just having, like, a psychology background, too. I'm going to add, because this is going to piss my family off, because they always thought that was really annoying. My aunt, when she was doing her psych major, would use, you know, she was going for a child psychology, and now she's actually very successful in Buffalo, New York, with in the school education department as, like, the head psychologist. But she would use my brother and I as, you know, her test subjects in college. And it wasn't anything like when my Scientology family caught wind of that, they wanted to fucking hang her up. Like, they thought, you know, electrodes up our asses, and we were being told all this crazy shit, when in actual reality, they were just, like, IQ tests, just, like, spatial awareness tests, you know, just figuring out just basic psychology. It wasn't pushed, you know, there wasn't any, I always just thought that was kind of fucked up. So I have that upbringing. So I with Jeremy's case, he absolutely needed to be in the hands of psychiatry, and they failed him. And what they did was, I think at one point, they were even trying to administer liquid, yeah, they were. My uncle told me that. So he was refusing to take the handfuls of vitamins because, you know, like, I refuse to take handfuls of vitamins. Right. And I'm just, you just take a vitamin. Like, fuck your vitamins. I've had enough vitamins for a lifetime. They would pump us full of vitamins and vitamins. And, no, like, you know, Tylenol or Trimedic when you were sick. It was like, take some bee pollen and drink some CalMag. Like, just hug me. I need a tissue. But, yeah, so we're getting off track again. I can go on, like, so many different things.
Yeah.
But, yeah, Jeremy and Ellie, that's a whole nother fucked up thing. So why we got on that was his sister was part of that posse that showed up at my house to try and shut everybody down, and, you know. And so what happened with my uncle's death, and, okay, so this is good. This is a big one for me, because I've literally been sitting on this, like, So I have very good information. I've seen it myself with my own two eyes. There is somebody in my family that is, they're in good standing. I mean, the whole Reile family is in good standing.
Are you sure you want to say this?
Currently, I do.
Okay.
Because, well, so with my uncle's death, I do, because in that little group of people, there's another person that was like, give him hell, tell him about this. So I'm just going to go ahead and say he's always been one of my favorites, and he knows that, so I'm going to take your advice on this because he knows what's up too, and he's part of this family. So after they found out that this money was missing, and they started piecing shit together, and my uncle's wife told him, like, oh, well, you know, he had that meeting with his church and then came home really depressed for the last, you know, whatever. Like, she wasn't involved in the church, so she didn't know any of that. So then they figured it out. So somebody in my family went to the church knowing full well what could happen to her just by walking in the fucking door and asking for a penny back, or even talking about Carl's death with them, and, you know, any kind of inkling that they might have some sort of responsibility in that. Like, but she did it. Oh, shit. Well, she did it. I mean, people are going to know who the fuck I'm talking about because it's like common knowledge. So she did it because, you know, her brother took money from her and her husband and stuff, but she also took money from the rest of the family and, like I said, longtime friends. So she was really trying to get this money back for their longtime friends. Not so much the Scientologists. Like, it totally sucked that she lost out on all this money, but she wanted to make it right with these people that have been friends with them literally since, like, kindergarten.
Right.
You know, my family's friends, they grew up in a suburb. Like, I know the same guys my dad went to, like, preschool with. Like, they were always around. So it's a huge network of fucking people. And my aunt, you know, had the balls to go in and say, hey, Carl took this money. It wasn't his. He knew it wasn't his. He told you guys it wasn't his, and he needed it back, and you need to give it back to him. And they basically, they threatened her and, you know, did that whole thing. But she was prepared in her own way and had documents. And I don't know how all that really works without getting whatever in trouble. However, there are documents out there and witnesses that the church admitted and agreed that, yes, they knew that the money they accepted was stolen money. So the church knew that it was fucking stolen, and they admitted it.
Oh, wow.
In this document, yeah. And she got them to admit it, or I don't know if she got them to admit it, but it was basically, she didn't get all the money back. She got like a third of it back. She got like just enough to, you know, I don't know, not all of it, but she got enough to give a little bit back to all of the people that my uncle had fucked over, and the rest of the family took a huge hit with that. But they basically, so she, in order for that to happen, she had to take the, you know, 30% or a third of it or whatever it was, and then, yeah, they're fully fucking aware that they took stolen money. And, I mean, I don't know if they admitted, I mean, I'm sure they did not at all admit that my uncle took his life because of that, because you can't, I mean, you don't know what happened. You don't
right, you can't make a flat out, yeah.
I mean, I can't, who knows, but just the fact that they knew that and were, you know, willing to admit, like, all right, you caught us. Sorry your brother got shafted, but, you know, you did it the right way, so here's some of the money back. And the only reason why that person didn't go full force is because she has, you know, her entire family is still in it.
Right.
They, you know, they all do love each other, and it's just, God, it's just so fucked up. But I think I'm running out of voice.
It's all about the stat, and it's all about the bottom line, isn't it? It's not about people, it's not about human beings. Okay.
No, it's really not.
I want to move on because I did not expect this, and this has been a lot of great information. I think it's actually, I think people don't get to see enough of that side of it. We hear the stories, but we don't hear, you gave a lot of insight from the inside, what it looks like when these things happen. And I think it's been valuable, so I'm glad you did get into it.
I'm glad. I haven't really gotten that out in like one fell swoop like that, so.
I can tell you wanted to.
Yeah.
Is it a little bit? Is it a little bit? What's the word I'm looking for? Cathartic to do that?
Yeah, it has been. It's also been, the whole thing in general, just speaking out and stuff, has been very everywhere. But recently, with the amount of support and just being able to finally talk to other people, like up until this show, just up until like a week or two before my episode aired, I hadn't spoken to anybody in any ex-Scientology world, and like, journalists, anything other than the couple of people I was working, with the ranch thing with, and then the producers of the show. I literally thought I was like completely alone. Like I thought Nathan and I were just like completely alone. I knew Nathan was doing great, and I was like, man, I'm totally alone. Like this really sucks. Where are all these people? Well, I didn't even think like where are all these people, because I didn't even know they existed. But yeah, it has been really cathartic. Like actually having a conversation. I was able to connect with Christy Gordon. She was on
a couple weeks ago,
but the week before with Amy Faust.
I know Christy. She's awesome.
Yeah, she's amazing. I love her. I don't know her like in real life, and I've only had like I talked to her. I say I talked to her because I basically did exactly what I'm doing to you with her. But she's such a wonderful, amazing, great person. And I had a conversation with her. And I don't like to text. I like to talk on the phone. And just being able to, like, make fun of Scientology things as a Scientologist and then not as a Scientologist, and then, like, realizing, like, the correlations between everything and just how fucked up it is, and then, thinking you were, like, super special and unique, like, I'll get into that because it's kind of funny. But, yeah, it's been really cathartic because over the years, I've told bits and pieces of my story. Like, I always say, like, I don't have any secrets. Somebody somewhere knows whatever it is about me. Like, I've never kept shit in, which I don't know. But I haven't been, I talk to people about what happened to me, and you just see, like, the interest just dim. Like, they're like, oh, wow, that's really fucked up. And then what happened? And then you start talking, and you can't explain any of this stuff without using, like, Scientology terms and explaining it in Scientology ways. And, like, it's actually been really great to get all of this shit out and just talk about it and have people actually understand what I'm talking about when I do like, the correlations and how, auditing really fucks with your psyche. Like, I would tell that to, my friends around the table, and they would just be like, oh, yeah, so, you just hold cans? Oh, I saw that on sulfur. You know what I mean? Like, they didn't, I love my friends, love you guys, but, I mean, and I get it. It was fucking weird. Like, everybody thought that Scientology was a cult, and, I didn't really talk about it, and I never said we were in a cult. Like, I still kind of feel, I don't know, it's, like, embarrassed and weird and, like,
Sure.
just saying that we were in a cult, like, it's like, ooh. Like, I don't think they're a church at all. I know why they call themselves. I know that whole guys and shit, but, yeah, it's really been, it's been really a lot of things, and, it has really been helping me heal and process shit, and then not process shit, and then I, like, try and rework shit, and I'm just like, oh my god, that's so nuts, but not at all nuts. And then I don't know if we talked about this already, but there's so many, I don't know, I totally forgot what I was saying. Basically, like, Scientologists thinking, like, I'm 36, and I wasn't even, like, I had my shit at the ranch, and that was some shit. And we didn't even really talk about what happened at the ranch.
No.
And then I didn't, I know, I didn't even touch on that. But I wasn't even in Scientology, and I'd like to think I'm a pretty bright, open-minded, get it kind of person, and it's embarrassing to me that I, after even all these years, I could still justify certain things, like even the word justify, because that's such a big word in Scientology. And then it really confuses me. I'm like, are these words like real words?
Justified is a real word.
No, I know that is, but like I say that to people, and they're like, what are you talking about? Like, of course that's a real word. I'm like, I don't know, because I, got done with my 2D over there. I'm just going off of it.
I know what you're saying.
Yeah, it has been really great. But like talking to Christy, and then just talking like, I mean, Nathan and I, we talk, but we don't. We talk about our own other things. But just other people. Yeah, it's been really great, and I hope it's been helpful for all these. I think it has been for all these other men and women. There seems to be a lot more women than men.
But that's something you do when you speak out. You're helping others, especially people who haven't spoken, people who haven't made that final decision yet.
Right. Yeah, and I'm glad that that's actually happening. That's what people were. You know, he would ask me before I actually did the show, or like while I was talking to the producer and stuff, like, well, what is your end game in this? What do you want to see? And like, I could list a whole bunch of things, and they're like, well, you want this to help people, right? But I had like such horrible guilt about, like, I didn't know if it was gonna help people. I thought I was like probably gonna like ruin a lot of people, and
yeah.
I really didn't think me telling my story was going to help anybody. Like at that particular time, it certainly didn't help me. I did not believe that. Last few months have been not so fucking easy. I'm not even going to lie. It has not been easy. It's been pretty emotionally wrecking, and I'm proud of myself that I'm like actually got out of that and stuff. But what was I talking?
It's about talking. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you. When you is that something you were going through, right? It was like an anxiety. Did you think before talking on Aftermath, maybe I'm the one that's wrong? Is that something that went through your head?
Oh yeah. While I was sitting on that couch, like, God, I feel like I look so nuts on that couch.
You were nervous.
And although I was so nervous, and I was very, 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 very nervous, and we didn't meet Leah or Mike before the show. Like, it was all very right then, and I thought, you know, I knew that I was still very nervous, but I was like, okay, I can meet these people and talk to them and tell them my story, and they get it, and, you know, we got there, and there was no in between. It was like, okay, you're on camera, go. And I let Nate take the lead, or I don't know if I let him, but I'm glad he did.
Yeah.
Like, everybody's like,
he seemed comfortable.
He talked a lot more. I'm like, oh, you have no idea how thankful I was for that. And it was hard for me to even watch him talk about his story, but I was really glad he was able to get out, because I didn't. We'll talk about that next time, but like Nathan and I were really close at one time at the ranch, and I didn't know that, and we've talked about that with we'll talk about that. I didn't know the stuff that he said on the show, and it broke my heart, and he's so, you know, Nathan and I are very much on the same page. He's more of a, like, you know, gung-ho. He's been researching this shit for a while, whereas I'm still kind of like, oh, that's why. Where he's like, I've been waiting for this for like 20 years. I was really, like, honestly, I do love all my other fellow ranch chiefs, but they will all agree, and they have to agree since I talked to them all, and they all wouldn't do this show with us, that I'm really glad that I did that with Nathan. Out of all the other people I know, I mean, I really wish our friends, our other, you know, the other people that were there with us would have been able to, but they couldn't, you know, because they would lose their families. And there was a lot of them. I reached out. That's a whole other topic. It was really a tricky thing trying to find people I could trust and even reach out to even tell them, like, hey, did you see that Leah Remini show? And that's kind of how it started. It was like, who the fuck can I, like, I watched the show, and I was like, oh my God, which rancher can I tell about this show? Like, I didn't even, I was like, oh,
right.
But it was just so crazy. Like, the point was, like, you're not allowed, you don't talk to each other. Like, the people, like the kids in the Sea Org, like your brothers and sisters, your each other's parents and, you know, friends, and you live and breathe each other all day, every day, and you don't talk about what's going, like who you are and what has happened to you. And, you know, you're like actual hopes and dreams and shit like that. Like that, I mean, Nathan, we had the same hopes and dreams as like getting the fuck out of the ranch.
Right.
But like at that, like we're like, woo. Yeah, I love Nate. But really, just it was really fucked up sitting on that couch and then just being there, and I was like, it was like a Rolodex. Like I said, I thought I knew, like I was ready and prepared, and it just started hitting me. Like I was like, oh my god, this is actually happening. Like my family's gonna hate me. There's like 20 billion Scientologists that are gonna fucking kill me. My children are gonna be taken away and in foster care. I'm gonna end up in jail. Oh my, like I am a bad person. Holy shit, they're right. Here I am a suppressive person right now. And then like, oh my god, it sounds insane, and I know how insane I sound thinking that, and like, but it's just it's weird. Like I know that I'm not a suppressive person. Like I know that I'm not an evil person. I mean, I don't know. Who knows? Maybe I fucking am, and I just don't know it. But you know, when I was sitting there and I was like, oh my god, because I was talking about how pretty much my entire upbringing and at the ranch specifically, they like to assign your constant tone level. And my constant tone level, always and forever, was going to be 1-1, which is covert hostility. And although I wasn't gay, it's so fucked up when they say that gays are allowed in Scientology. I don't know one single out gay person who was ever in Scientology. I know a lot of really sad, like not a lot, but enough closet gays that have since died. Probably, I don't know, but there aren't any gay people. So I was 1-1, which also means the little guy that they show it with is there's a hand outstretched to shake your hand, and behind his back is like a bat or a board with a nail in it. So like, hi, how are you doing? I'm gonna stab you in your face. And
oh wow.
So yeah, it's basically like covert hostility, like nice to your face, but they're gonna destroy your life behind your back. I think that's what my uncle's stupid country song was about me. Like, here's so 1-1, she's gonna steal your dog and whatever the stupid thing he was saying on the thing. But so the tone. Why are we talking about the tone scale? The tone scale at the, I don't even know.
Everything was measured on the tone scale.
Yeah. Yeah, you are good at this. Thank you.
I'm trying.
Lord knows I can't. So, no, but just sitting there on that couch, like terrified, and I had really no support. Really, I didn't have any support while I was doing it. I had like a couple people that shall remain nameless, but they, nobody to like hear me while I was going through all of this shit. So yeah, I recently started therapy in June. I started doing this thing called EDMR therapy. I always forget what it actually stands for. It's like eye movement thing. It's actually, we'll talk about that. I recommend it. I mean, if that's your thing. It took me a really long time to actually go and seek therapy that I trusted.
Right. Yep.
So I've been really, things have really been lining up for me this year. Knock on wood. Hopefully it continues. Hopefully this is like the beginning of a whole new thing. But yeah, hopefully. Sitting on that couch was really fucking triggering. And if you watch me, I'm like constantly glancing over to my right, and what's happening there is there's a window behind Leah, and like 5 minutes into our interview, where the four of us are sitting there, I could feel myself like this Rolodex of like every bad thing that has ever fucking happened, and why, and the reasons, and it was just like trigger. It was like an AK-47 of triggering trauma sitting there. So there was a window behind her.
Yeah.
It was like my focal point, and then also, not that I was going to jump out of it, but, if I needed to, it was right there. So I noticed that when I was sitting on the couch, I was like, oh, that's when because I was telling my therapist about it. I was like, you know, I got really nervous, but I focused on the window, and she's like, oh, well, that's really great. And I was like, no, because I knew I could jump out of it. And she's like, no, that's not great.
That's not great, no.
Just understand me. I know you're new at this, but trust me, I wasn't really going to jump out the window. I'm cool, but so it was really, really, nerve-wracking. And don't get me wrong, like Leah and Mike, very nice. Like they're great, and I'm so thankful that they're doing this, and they gave us and all these other people this platform. And you know, this show has actually been like the major catalyst to get talking and moving on this. And it's like amazing that it's 20 years exactly this year from that I left the ranch, and I just think it's really awesome. But yeah, it was really triggering. I did just recently start therapy. I'm working on 30 years of being told I was a fuck up, and then being that leaf, because that's what they called me my entire life. And I know that's like a lot of people would say, well, that's a justification, and you're 36 now, and whatever. I'm also have been a fuck up a lot of the times, and I've done things. I wanted to bring this up too, because like they always, I was hurting. I was always such like a problem, and they always I was always made to believe that I was such an asshole child and like such a horrible, evil person. But I never hurt anybody, and I challenged them all. And I never hurt any of them. I've never attacked them. I've never stolen from them. Anytime I was hurting or I was hurt, I would then hurt myself more, and because I felt like that was the necessary punishment. And it's been really a lot.
I bet.
I hope that I summed up some of that. And
you did pretty good, pretty well.
Yeah, okay. Cool. Thank you.
No problem.
Working on it.
Let's tap on the ranch just a little bit, and then I'll get into it. We'll close it up a little bit here, because I think this has been almost 2 hours. I think we could do like 10 more of these and still have compelling content. You've been amazing. And I thank you for talking about things, because you're talking about things that I know aren't easy for you.
Yeah, they have. I have my days. Like I said, that's why I didn't.
All right. So let's talk a little bit about the ranch, because that's the one thing that I knew about you coming in. I thought we were going to do 45 minutes because I didn't know much about you. We covered a lot of important stuff, but on the ranch was a big part of your life, because that was where the bulk of your Scientology experience came in specifically. Can you talk about what it was like for you? What kind of things did you witness and see there?
Well, I can talk about that. Sometimes better than others.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was sent to the Mace Kingsley Ranch in New Mexico in 1996. In February of '96, I was 14. It was right outside of Reserve, New Mexico, in the Gila Wilderness or Gila Wilderness. Not really sure how you pronounce it, but it was in the middle of nowhere. It was beautiful, the aesthetics of the place, mountains and seasons and all that stuff. The ranch itself was a ranch you'd expect to find out in the middle of New Mexico, I guess. And in the brochure that I was shown, there was horseback riding and I believe like whitewater rafting or something along those lines. There was like waterfalls involved or something, and like ATV riding and all that awesome stuff. It didn't actually happen there. I mean, we did get to ride a horse once, but we'll get into that. So the ranch.
Okay.
The Mace Kingsley Ranch in New Mexico. So yeah, it was proposed to me as somewhere better than juvenile hall, because apparently that's what I was looking at, which I don't know.
It's either this or juvie, Tara. This is your choice.
It was either Mace Kingsley or juvie, but like looking back on it, I don't think so. I think like really somebody should have one of my parents probably should have just taken me in, instead of kicking me to the curb and then giving me options like that. But anyway, so of course I picked the Mace Kingsley Ranch, because who the hell wants to go to juvie?
Yeah, can I ask you a question real quick?
Yeah.
About that, because this never came up. And with anyone I've ever talked to, and you've admittedly said that you had some trouble as a child, and you got into a lot of trouble. Do you, looking back objectively today, do you think you were a child that required juvie, or do you think this is more of a parenting versus not wanting to parent situation?
It's a parenting versus not wanting to parent situation, and I have many family members now that would back me on that. I wasn't such an asshole as they, made me believe.
Right.
I wasn't in trouble with the law at all. I wasn't a thief. I wasn't any kind of trouble. It was basically I didn't want to go to school. I was skipping school a lot. I got kicked out of my one school, and I was actually going to Catholic school in downtown Buffalo, and I was kicked out of there for, I believe, just for skipping school, really. And at that point, I had already been shuffled around to various family members and stuff, and not with my parents. So, any kind of trouble I was getting into, it was more myself, and it was like a cry for attention. So yeah, looking back on it, no, juvenile hall was not a place for me. And, my dad and my uncle, Chris, the oh so handsome man in that smear video, they both, they brought that up over the years. And my uncle just brought that up last month when he called me not begging me, but trying to get me not to see the episode. But just saying, well, we saved you. You were looking at juvie. And I'm like, but was I really? Because, I've watched enough television and known enough about court systems and shithead kids to know that I really don't think I was looking at juvie at all. So yeah, that's interesting that hasn't come up before. But yeah, a lot of kids at the ranch, had issues like that, but none of them. I mean, there maybe have been like one or two that might have been like super troubles with the law, but there wasn't.
Yeah, I mean, Leah and Mike say well, you're just being kids. You're doing it in trouble like kids do. I feel like the bulk of the trouble you got in over your life came after and as a result of being
pretty much
put through the system.
Yeah, pretty much. That's yeah, you're right.
Okay, that was just my guess.
I look at my daughter, and my son, and had they done any of the stuff that I was doing at 13, 14, I don't know, they wouldn't be doing any of the stuff I was doing at 13 or 14, because I wouldn't.
That's how you raised them.
Them go. Right, exactly. I raised them differently, and I love them, and they know that. And I'm not saying my parents didn't love me, but that's still up for debate. So working on that.
I hate to say that. I'm sorry, but
no, but it's it is what it is. I mean, but yeah, my as far as that goes, so that's how I ended up at the Mace Kingsley Ranch, because I didn't want to go to juvie. Like I knew kids that went to juvie, they were scary. I didn't want to hang out with them. Like I was like, I was a troublemaker. But let me add too, at that time, I was also allowed to smoke cigarettes at my house. My parents, even after they divorced, but it was normal. Like my stepsisters, we all smoked cigarettes. We were allowed to drink, and I put that in quotes because our parents wouldn't buy us the booze, but if we were trashed, it was just clean up after yourself. Our house was the party house. I was 13. Like I look at my daughter and I'm just like, oh my God, what was I thinking?
Wow.
Like. Or not what was I thinking, but what was my parents thinking? I know what I was thinking. I was thinking, like, holy shit, this is fucking great, Like, what kind of 13-year-old gets this kind of life? And it was. Like, I had, like, the coolest life ever. And, come to find out, apparently, my dad and his brothers and sisters kind of had the same upbringing. And we lived I grew up right next door to the family home. So my grandparents lived right next door. So it's kind of interesting now that looking at that would make sense, because there wasn't any real guidance. It was just kind of go do your own thing, which is great and all, but you have to have some sort of legit caring repercussions, not just punishment after the fact, after allowing that to happen. I don't know.
I get what you're saying. It's,
a lot of neglect. There was just a lot of neglect, and and my parents were young when they had me, and I mean, but not that young. I'm not even gonna say that anymore because I was 20 when I had my son, and it doesn't really take a lot. I mean, it does, but it doesn't to know right from wrong. That's, but whatever. So. I don't know.
Well, we all know right from wrong. It's how we choose to use it. Like we sometimes we choose to make excuses. You could have easily. I said this to several people I've talked to in the past. You could easily say, well, I had a crappy life, so kids, they don't expect too much from me, or something like that. And that's something that happens. Right. That's something that happens in the real world. It's terrible.
I'm very open. I'm an open book. I don't know if you've noticed. Once I get going,
yeah,
keep going. So I think, well, I was also raised, Scientology, you don't want to have secrets because you think everybody can read your fucking mind anyway. And I know it sounds crazy, but I know that it's true because I've talked to other ones that are it's embarrassing to admit, but that's what you believe. So
right.
For me, for instance, and I've talked to other people, ex-Scientologists, as far as being an open book, it's kind of like, if you don't have any secrets, then, I don't know how to say it, if you don't have any secrets, then you really don't have anything to feel bad or ashamed of. I don't know how to explain that. So that's why I talk about everything I can to get it out. So other people aren't, I don't know how to. There's way more to it. I'm sorry. There's way more to it.
It sounds like something that a lot of people who've been through what you've been through or been through Scientology will understand what you're saying without you having to say more. It might be a little harder for us never ends to for us never ends to quite get the gist of it. But I do think it's pretty clear. You are trained. It's your experience that you are to talk about everything, and if you don't, they're going to find out, and you're going to be made to feel like crap for it. So
right.
Yeah.
Which actually, with that though, it then you have no filter, and you spend a lot of your time saying shit that you shouldn't say, hurting people's feelings and stuff as well. So there's a whole, I'm sure, somebody has probably already spoken about this somewhere, about, having to say things like this because, tell all of your secrets because of that. I don't know. Anyways, we're going off on a tangent.
That's fine.
Back to the Mace so Doobie, or the Mace Kingsley, I picked MK because it looks pretty and it looks way better. So my dad said, all right, you have 3 days. And I was like, okay. So we left in 3 days, and I think it was 3 days. It could have been the next day, but it was very soon after. And he came over. I was living with my aunt at the time on my mother's side, and he came over and he talked to me about it in his truck in the driveway. And it was weird. Okay, well maybe my dad really loves me. I don't know. Anyway, but he said that I could be part of the family again if I did this program, and I could live back at their house back with my dad and my new family and everything. That's really what I wanted. And I was like, all right. So I did that. And my dad said that we were going to go down and check it out. Not that I was going to stay there, but check it out. And it was only going to be 3 months. I'd be home in 3 months. So I'd be home by, my birthday, which was in June. And I wasn't home in 3 months. But
right.
So we flew down to Reserve. Well, we flew down to Albuquerque, and it was a 3-hour drive from Albuquerque. And down, I think, Highway 12. It's really cool. You could see all those, huge satellites you see in the movies and stuff. I was like, oh, wow, this is so
That's SETI? I don't even know.
What?
SETI? The SETI satellites? You don't...
SETI. I think it's SETI.
Okay.
I don't know. But they were their satellites. Yeah, it was just super neat. And we checked into this little hotel that they had in town, and then we went to the Mace Kingsley Ranch the next day, and I don't really remember, all of it, but I know that, they introduced us to whoever, and then they took my dad and did whatever they had to do, and then I went with like the kids or something, and basically I had like 3 days of, I think we called it destimulation, where you like, 3 days of getting the outside world out of you and moving into the new place. And that changed actually, like a month after I had gotten there, they changed all that shit. So the poor kids coming in did not get 3 days of like bullshit, everybody's happy. Although I don't know what would be better or worse, honestly, like to just get thrown right into camp or into the, well anyways. So I had this 3-day destem thing where all these kids like showed me around, and I got to see like the cool kids, like the staff kids or whatever, and not so much of the program. And it was basically just like a propaganda bullshit thing. And then my dad left, and he said I'd be home in 3 months. And it wasn't. Sorry.
That's like a couple things here. Now, they wanted you to choose, basically, did they not?
Yeah.
They gave you a choice, but it was because it's almost like juvies to scare you into Mace Kingsley.
Exactly. Right.
And did you immediately realize you didn't belong there when you got there?
Yeah. I was like,
okay.
Yeah. I was like, this is not. But then I was still thinking, but I still knew, like, juvie to me was like prison. And that was like, and I didn't want that, and I was already stuck there. So I was like, all right, this isn't so bad, And then I don't remember the point that it got bad, but I know that work happened right away, labor and production and course and auditing. I had a lot of auditing, and I thought that was like a lot of other kids had auditing, but come to find out, there were more than not, I think, that didn't get auditing or something like that. Like, I believe Mason said he didn't really get much there because, well, the parents had to pay for it and stuff. So that was an interesting thing, side note. But I got a lot of auditing. Before that, I didn't really have any. And
was that weird?
It was weird. It was weird. It's still weird. Yeah. I'd really like to get my hands on it if you need it, and just, like, I'm not going to tell you what I want to do with it, but I just want to get my hands on it, screw with one. I just want to screw with one. They're just so, I don't even know. It's so weird. Auditing really fucks with a person's head for a really long time, I believe, even if it's just a small amount.
I've heard that.
Yeah, and it's really, like, I always was embarrassed because I was, like, I'm actually higher on the bridge than my dad, which I didn't know, but I found out recently, for some weird reason. But anyway, and the whole thing with that is, like, I don't know what the whole thing with that is, honestly, Trish. Fucking weird thing. But the auditing was weird. I went up, if this makes any sense, I got up to ARC straight layer. I can't remember what comes before that or what comes after that, but it's lower. It's not like clear what everybody attains to be. But I did have a lot of auditing processes. I got in trouble a lot. So when you would get in trouble, or not even get in trouble, but you would be sec checked, which is basically like an interrogation, find out what you're actually doing wrong. And because I was always involved in some sort of protesting type shit happening at the ranch, or kid stuff. I was constantly sex checked at like $3,000 a pop, and I want to say I had like 6 of them over the course of the what do you call them, like almost 2 years that I was there. So, and that was just sex checking on top of the auditing that I got, and I got a lot of auditing because my family really, really, really wanted me to be a Scientologist. They were really not happy when I couldn't join the SEALs. Like they weren't like super pissed, but that was like the ultimate goal, get her in the SEALs. Thankfully, when the recruiters came to Mace Kingsley Ranch, which they did, so that was always a thing because Scientology, like, or the church likes to say that they didn't have anything to do with Mace Kingsley. Well, you did. We have pictures of Sea Org recruiters coming down and recruiting these kids from the ranch. And a lot of them did go to Sea Org from there. So, but anyway, I couldn't join because I had dropped acid when I was 13. So,
Automatically disqualified.
Yeah, that automatically disqualified me. So that was, a blessing in disguise, I guess.
Right, because a lot more story could have been told.
Yeah, honestly, it really could have. And they like whisked me out of the room. Like, they're like, oh no, Tara's not. She can't. She's not qualified. Whatever. So that worked. But let's see.
The sec check. The sec check is much different. It's almost the same as auditing, but it's really a lot more invasive, is it not?
It's very invasive. And
so you were 11? Were you 11 getting these questions asked to you?
14? I was 14. But the thing with sec checks, and I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure I'm not on this, is the case supervisor, like, the in-charge person of the auditing, the auditors at whatever location, is called the CS, the case supervisor. And I'm pretty sure that they can add things into, sex checks. Like, they can make their own sex checks or something.
Yeah,
I swear I had my own sex checks.
I think they tailor it. Yeah, they tailor it to what they've seen in past the sessions. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So it makes my stomach hurt thinking about it, honestly.
Oh, that bad.
Yeah. Yeah, I got a lot of auditing, which was good in some ways because when you got auditing, you didn't have to work. But on the other hand, you were getting auditing, so you're getting mind fucked without realizing it, and I didn't realize it. I bought that shit hook, line, and sinker. Like a lot of, I didn't really. I don't want to say that because that's not true. I made myself believe it because I had to. That makes sense.
All right, so that's I got time for part 2 with Tara Reile. I think it's a lot of good stuff coming from this, and there's another great part coming up next Thursday at a regular scheduled time of 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Thursday. Tomorrow, of course, is part 2 of 2 with Miriam Francis. I promise you'll be able to hear it, and I'll have that ready for you tomorrow at noon Eastern Time again. So let's talk about the very beginning of this interview with Tara was the thought process towards women. I have learned since then of something called the wife hat. Take a look at that if you get a chance to do some search. If you're a watcher, if you don't know about it, it's interesting. More than interesting.
You have been listening to Come Get Some Extra on Blog Talk Radio, iTunes, YouTube, and many other streaming services where available. As always, stay connected, and that about sums it up.